Please be seated. I have two snippets of favorite prayers from my Iona prayer book that I like to say each day during Lent. And the first is, I on your path, O God, you, O God, on my way. I on your path, O God, and you, O God, on my way. Hoping to recalibrate my navigational system away from self-protection and distraction and back into the journey of the depths of love. The second says, O Christ of the road of the wounded, O Christ of the tears of the broken, in me and with me, the needs of this world. Grant me my prayers of loving and hoping. Grant me my prayers of yearning and healing. I'm wanting my yearning and my hoping and my loving to shift back to the beautiful but forgotten and neglected people of this world with whom our God is so deeply in love. Because I know that is where I will find love waiting for me. I drive here in my shiny, clean, warm car with a full tank of gas despite rising prices. And at the corner of my freeway exit is a community of tents. Only a thin layer of wooden pallet between the floor of the tent and the mud that surrounds them. A clothesline is hung up in an attempt to maintain the dignity of clean clothing. Sometimes it is a man on the corner, face weathered and worn with smile lines visible, but he smiles at me who offers him really nothing of consequence, and yet still he gifts me with his smile. This week it was a family huddled together, sign made of torn cardboard saying, God bless you, wishing me a blessing, me who has offered them little. And my heart is breaking. For as much as I know that Jesus is with me in my car and in my heart wherever I may go, I know that he is so much more present out there. That he stands hand in hand with that family, that he huddles in the cold tent, that he laughs and sings with those who have made community despite the mud and the cold and the cardboard boxes. With these people who know much of perseverance, of finding joy even as the economic system has tipped them on their heads. And I know love's heart leaps and cries out, Portland, oh Portland, how much I long to gather you up under my wings. Well, in case you had forgotten that it was Lent, this gospel reading of ours jolts our minds into the context of the season, with its foreshadowing of death, its illusion of resurrection, and its stark reminders of the need for love to walk the way of the cross in the first place. And one of the star characters of this unfolding drama is Jerusalem. Much of the book of Luke is taken up by this road to Jerusalem, most of Jesus' ministry in the context of his journey to death. And as much as Jerusalem is, of course, a very real place where he will in a very real way die, I think for Luke and for us, Jerusalem is a character unto itself, a metaphor for the places in our hearts and in our world, the places that start as places promised unrealized, the city of peace that has become instead a place of conflict. It is the halls of power. It is the systems that value might and wealth and denigrate the vulnerable. It is war against Ukraine. It is the fear of loss of control. It is the part of ourselves that wants to reject truth, deny vulnerability, and do whatever we can to feel safe. It is disgust, it is judgment, it is guilt, it is shame. It is the place in us that is most afraid of being fully seen and most wants to numb to the suffering and pain around us. It is the place in our world and in our hearts that runs as far and as fast as possible from love's gentle embrace. What is this place for you? What part of you or your world would keep you from following Christ out into the fray? Now, as much as I would like to pick up rocks and throw them full force into the external metaphorical Jerusalem and do some emotional punching on my internal Jerusalem, Jesus' response is lament, a profound love, a deep sadness and a fierce longing to gather up those sinful parts in a protective embrace so that fear can be released and repentance can be made possible. Jesus stands along this road to Jerusalem, warned and aware that he is walking toward his death. But he isn't even a little distracted. There is no contemplation of the safest strategy forward. His eyes rest on the suffering and brokenness of the world, and he is filled with resolve to lean in, to heal, to love, to keep on loving, and to never let death and suffering have the final word. The word Lent comes from an Old English word meaning to lengthen. It's a time in which we hold the juxtaposition of the hopefulness of spring and the lengthening of the days with the reality of the road to Jerusalem, the very real impact of sin on ourselves and this world. And as much as our Lenten journey is an invitation to follow Jesus along his path, it is also an invitation into sorrow, to let our hearts break for the brokenness of the world around us and in us, to walk courageously on the road of the Jerusalems of our reality, lamenting the brokenness of the world while at the same time working to tirelessly heal them, binding up wounds, knocking over tables of oppression with hopeful songs of resurrection on our lips. And in that journey to find Jesus healing, laughing, deeply present in the most fearful places we can imagine, welcoming our broken hearts home. I on your path, O God, you, O God, on my way. O Christ of the road of the wounded, O Christ of the tears of the broken, in me and with me, the needs of this world. May this be a Lent for you in which you find your way to the path of Christ. That despite the looming Jerusalem, you might have the joy of walking the road of the brokenhearted, where the healing hands of love might be found. Amen. I have been a bit missing the reflections that we used to do when we were all on Zoom, and so wanted to invite just a brief time of that, both for folks on Zoom and here. Not maybe as long as we used to do that, but just a brief time. So if anyone has reflections on where metaphorical Jerusalems might be for them or what the path that Christ might be calling them to during this Lent, and you want to share, you can use that microphone, the Zoom world, or just face your mind microphone.